Admiral Vex stood on the bridge of his massive warship, staring at the blue planet floating in the darkness of space. Earth looked so small and helpless from here. He laughed quietly to himself as he watched the primitive ships moving around, the planet like tiny insects. "Look at them," he said to his second-in-command, Captain Moore. "They still use fire to push their ships through space. How pathetic." The Corthani Empire had been conquering worlds for over 300 years. Vex had personally led attacks on 12 different planets, and every single one had surrendered within days. Some had given up within hours. The pattern was always the same: show up with superior technology, destroy a few cities, wait for the white flags. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we've finished scanning their planet. They have basic nuclear weapons and some orbital stations, but nothing that could threaten us." Vex nodded. "How many billion live on this rock?" "About 8 billion, sir, mostly concentrated in large cities." "Perfect. Target their 3 largest population centers. A quick demonstration should make them see reason." Captain Moore looked uncomfortable. "Sir, 8 billion is quite a large population. Perhaps we should try diplomatic contact first?" Vex turned and glared at his subordinate. "Diplomatic contact? With primitives who can barely leave their own atmosphere? We are the Corthani Empire. We do not negotiate with insects." The truth was, Vex enjoyed this part. The fear in the enemy's voices when they realized how outmatched they were. The desperate pleas for mercy. The way entire civilizations crumbled in the face of Corthani superiority. It proved what he had always believed, that some species were simply born to rule while others were meant to serve. "Begin the bombardment," he ordered. 3 plasma beams lanced down from orbit, each one carrying enough energy to vaporize a mountain. New York disappeared in a pillar of brilliant fire that could be seen from space. The shockwave flattened everything for miles around. Tokyo followed minutes later, the ancient city becoming nothing but superheated gas and melted steel. London was last, its famous landmarks erased in an instant of terrible light. Vex watched the destruction with satisfaction. 50 million dead in the first strike, his tactical officer reported. That should get their attention. "Now we wait," Vex said, settling back in his command chair. "Open all communication channels. Their surrender should come within the hour," but the hour passed and no surrender came. "Sir," the communications officer said, sounding puzzled. "We're receiving transmissions from the planet, but they're not surrender broadcasts." "What are they then?" "Evacuation orders, sir, emergency coordination messages, military mobilization commands, and, well, they seem to be broadcasting music." Vex frowned. "Music?" "Yes, sir. Battle songs by the sound of it. Very loud, very aggressive battle songs." This was not normal. Every other species they had encountered had immediately tried to negotiate after the first demonstration of Corthani power. Fear was supposed to be universal. Survival instinct should have kicked in by now. "Show me their military response," Vex demanded. The main screen flickered to life, showing feeds from across Earth. Instead of panic and chaos, Vex saw something he had never witnessed before. Humans were running, yes, but not in random terror. They moved with purpose, following evacuation plans that seemed to have been prepared in advance. Military units were mobilizing with impressive speed. Civilians were helping each other reach safety. Most disturbing of all, many of them seemed angry rather than afraid. "Sir," Captain Moore said quietly, "their military is moving to defensive positions around their remaining cities. They're not acting like a species ready to surrender." Vex leaned forward in his chair. "Then we hit them harder, target 5 more cities." "Sir, perhaps we should study their behavior more carefully. This response is unprecedented. The response is irrelevant." Vex snapped. "They are primitives with inferior technology. Numbers mean nothing without proper weapons. Order the second bombardment." But even as he gave the command, Vex felt a small, nagging doubt. In 3 centuries of conquest, the Corthani had developed certain expectations. Species that had survived long enough to develop spaceflight usually showed some basic survival instincts. They understood when they were outmatched. These humans seemed to be missing that understanding entirely. The second bombardment destroyed 5 more human cities. The death toll climbed to over 100 million. Vex waited for the inevitable, surrender transmission. Instead, the humans began launching ships. Not warships. They barely had any real military vessels. But they sent up everything that could fly. Cargo haulers, mining ships, research vessels, even converted passenger liners. All of them heading away from Earth in different directions. "What are they doing?" Vex muttered. "Unknown, sir. Some appear to be heading for their moon bases, others toward the asteroid belt. A few are on intercept courses with our outer patrol ships." "Intercept courses? With what weapons?" "Unclear, sir. Our sensors show they're carrying nuclear devices, but their delivery systems are primitive." Vex almost laughed. "They're going to attack us with chemical rockets and nuclear bombs? This should be entertaining." But as he watched the human ships spread out across the solar system, something cold settled in his stomach. He had seen desperation before. He had seen last stands and final charges, but he had never seen an entire species react to overwhelming force by immediately going on the attack. Commander Yun Sora floated in the cramped cockpit of her converted cargo hauler, watching the Corthani patrol ship through her cracked view screen. 3 days had passed since the aliens had murdered over 100 million of her people. 3 days of grief, rage, and desperate preparation. "Dragon leader to all units," she whispered into her helmet microphone. "Remember, we're not trying to be better than them. We're trying to be smarter." Her fleet was a joke by any military standard. 12 cargo ships, 8 mining vessels, 4 research shuttles, and 2 tourist liners that had been orbiting Luna when the attack began. The crews were an equally mixed bunch: dock workers, asteroid miners, scientists, and a few actual military pilots like herself. But they all shared one thing in common. They were absolutely furious. "Contact in 30 seconds, reported Lee Minho from the mining ship beside her. "Their shields are up, but they're not scanning actively. They think we're just debris." Sora smiled grimly. The Corthani had been in space for centuries, but they had grown lazy. Their technology was superior, but they used it the same way every single time. Same shield frequencies, same sensor sweeps, same patrol patterns. Humans had been studying their captured transmissions for 3 straight days, and Dr. Park Jiwoo's team had found something interesting. The aliens never changed their procedures, ever. "All units execute," Sora commanded. The human ships had approached from the direction of Earth's moon, hiding among the rocky debris that orbited in the gravitational dead zone. To Corthani sensors, they looked like natural objects, chunks of rock and ice that posed no threat. The nuclear warheads they carried were crude by alien standards, but Dr. Park's team had done something clever with the alien technology salvaged from the attack sites. They had modified the warheads to emit the exact same energy signature as Corthani plasma weapons. The alien shields, designed to stop outside attacks, let the disguised human weapons pass right through. Commander Vex was reviewing casualty reports from other conquered worlds when his ship shuddered. Emergency alarms screamed across the bridge as his tactical officer shouted in confusion. "Sir, we've been hit. Multiple impacts on the hull." "Impossible," Vex snarled. "Our shields are at full power. Nothing these primitives have can penetrate. Corthani defense systems." But his ship shuddered again, and this time the lights flickered. "Sir, the attacks are coming from inside our shield perimeter. Somehow their weapons are passing through our defenses." On her cargo hauler, Sora watched with savage satisfaction as explosions bloomed across the alien ship's hull. "Phase 2, people. Time to board." What happened next would have been funny if it weren't so terrifying. The Corthani had never been boarded by an enemy force. Their ships were designed to attack planets from orbit, not to defend against boarding parties. They had weapons meant for space combat, not corridor fighting. The humans, on the other hand, had brought tools they understood. Construction worker Han Dong-soo cut through the alien hull with an industrial plasma torch, while his partner held a magnetic drill against the ship's surface. Behind them, a team of miners prepared breaching charges made from mining explosives. The aliens inside the ship panicked when the humans began cutting their way in. They had energy weapons, but their corridors were too narrow for effective use. The humans brought crowbars, welding torches, and kitchen knives taped to metal poles. "Contact front," shouted mechanic Kim Soo-jin, as she swung a modified wrench at an alien's head. The creature went down hard, its advanced armor no match for a tool designed to loosen industrial bolts. The battle was over in 20 minutes. The Corthani crew, trained for ship-to-ship combat and orbital bombardment, had no idea how to fight boarding parties in close quarters. The humans, many of whom had worked dangerous jobs their entire lives, adapted quickly to the cramped alien corridors. When Admiral Vex received the transmission from his captured patrol ship, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Humans in work clothes and spacesuits were standing on his bridge, waving at the camera. One of them was eating what appeared to be an alien ration pack and making disgusted faces. "This is Commander Yoon Sora of the Earth Defense Force," came the transmission. "We've captured your ship and your crew. Thank you for the new technology. We'll put it to good use." The transmission cut off, and Vex stared at the blank screen in shock. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving more distress calls. The humans have attacked 6 more of our patrol ships using the same tactics. How is this possible? They're primitives. Sir, our analysts believe they've been studying our shield frequencies and have found a way to fool our defensive systems. They're using our own technology against us. Within 24 hours, 12 Corthani ships had been captured or destroyed. The humans weren't trying to match alien technology ship for ship. Instead, they were fighting like pirates and terrorists, using speed and surprise to overcome superior firepower. Worse, they were learning. Each attack was more sophisticated than the last." "Sir," Captain Moore said carefully, "perhaps we should consider negotiations. These humans are proving more resourceful than expected." Vex slammed his fist on his command chair. "We are the Corthani Empire. We do not negotiate with insects." But even as he said it, another distress signal came in from the outer system. The insects, it seemed, had very sharp teeth. Dr. Lee Jae-sung hadn't slept in 48 hours. His eyes burned as he stared at the alien technology spread across the workbench in the converted subway tunnel beneath Seoul. Around him, dozens of engineers and mechanics worked frantically, turning salvaged Corthani equipment into weapons Earth could actually use. "Hand me that power coupling," he called to his assistant, Park Min-jung. She was a former smartphone factory supervisor who had volunteered when the government asked for anyone with electronics experience. "Doctor, this doesn't make sense," Min-jung said, holding up a piece of alien circuitry. "Why would they make everything so complicated? This single component does what our entire computer used to do, but it's designed like they never heard of efficiency." Lee nodded grimly. "That's exactly the problem. They've been using the same designs for hundreds of years. They never had to improve or adapt because nothing ever challenged them." He pointed to another workstation where former auto mechanics were stripping parts from captured alien weapons. "Look at their plasma rifles. Incredibly advanced, but they all use the same frequency, the same power source, the same targeting system. We've been fighting wars on Earth for thousands of years. We know that if everyone uses the same tactics, someone smart will figure out how to beat them." 3 tables over, submarine engineer Choi Kyung-ho was showing a group of Navy officers how to modify their old nuclear subs. "We take out the missile compartments and fill them with alien shield generators," he explained. "The subs are already designed to be quiet underwater. With alien stealth tech, they'll be invisible in space, too." The work was dangerous and exhausting, but it was also exciting. For the first time since the bombing, people felt like they were fighting back instead of just running and hiding. Captain Kim Hye-jin coordinated the civilian resistance networks from a hidden command center in Busan. Her background was in computer programming, but now she spent her days teaching housewives how to turn kitchen supplies into explosives that alien sensors couldn't detect. "The key is improvisation," she explained to a group of volunteers. "They scan for known explosive signatures, but they don't know what to look for when we mix fertilizer with cleaning products in ways their databases never recorded." One of the volunteers, an elderly woman named Mrs. Yoon, raised her hand. "My grandson says his gaming console can be modified to jam their communications. Is that true?" Kim smiled. "Not just gaming consoles. Smartphones, tablets, even digital. Watches. Their communication system is incredibly advanced, but it's standardized across their entire empire. Once we've figured out their encryption patterns, we can disrupt them using any device that broadcasts radio signals. The aliens had made a critical mistake. They assumed that advanced technology meant better technology, but Earth's chaotic mix of competing companies, different standards, and constant innovation had created something the Corthani Empire had never encountered: technological diversity. In the ruins of Tokyo, former factory worker Sato Yuki led a team that was turning household items into weapons. They scanned for metal, explosives, and energy signatures, she explained to her group, but they don't scan for plastic bottles filled with acid, or ceramic knives, or wooden clubs with glass shards. The resistance networks grew rapidly. People shared information through video game chat systems that the aliens couldn't crack. They coordinated attacks using social media platforms that looked like normal conversations. A message about grandmothers. Recipe for kimchi might actually be instructions for building improvised bombs. Back in Seoul, Dr. Lee had made a breakthrough. "I've figured out why their technology is so standardized," he announced to his team. "They're not innovators, they're inheritors." "What do you mean?" asked Min Jung. "Look at these designs. They're all variations of the same basic patterns, just scaled up or down. I don't think the current Corthani actually invented most of this technology. I think they found it, learned to use it, but never learned to improve it." This revelation changed everything. The humans stopped trying to copy alien technology and started thinking of ways to make it better. They took Corthani power cells and made them more efficient. They improved alien sensors and made them more sensitive. Most importantly, they made everything modular and adaptable. "We're doing in months what took them centuries," Lee realized, "because we're not afraid to change things that work. We're always trying to make them work better." The results were spectacular. Human ships began appearing throughout the solar system, but they weren't following any pattern the aliens recognized. Some looked like standard Earth vessels with alien weapons bolted on. Others were completely hybrid designs that combined the best of both technologies. Admiral Vex received increasingly frantic reports from his scouts. "Sir, the humans have modified their space stations to be mobile. They're using them as assault platforms. And sir," another officer added, "they've somehow taught other species in the outer colonies how to resist us. The rebellion is spreading." Keel stared at the tactical display showing human activity throughout the system. Red dots marked human ships, and there were far too many of them. Worse, they weren't staying in predictable locations. They appeared, attacked, and vanished before his forces could respond. "How are they moving so fast?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. Their ships appear to be using hybrid technology we don't understand. They're combining our systems with their own in ways our designers never considered." The truth was becoming clear. The Corthani had superior individual technologies, but the humans were better at making different technologies work together. They were innovation itself, weaponized and angry. Admiral Vex stared at the tactical display showing Earth's solar system, his 3 hearts beating faster than they had in decades. 6 months had passed since the first bombing and everything had gone wrong. Instead of a quick surrender, he was looking at the largest military disaster in Corthani history. "Sir," Captain Moore reported quietly, "we've lost contact with 17 patrol fleets. The humans have captured or destroyed over 60 of our ships." "And the outer colonies?" Vex asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. 12 worlds have declared independence. The humans are teaching them guerrilla tactics and sharing their hybrid technology. Our garrison forces are requesting immediate reinforcement. Vex slammed his fist on the command console. This was supposed to be simple. Primitive species surrendered when faced with superior firepower. It was a law of nature, but these humans seemed to think laws were just suggestions. "Bring in the reserve fleets," he ordered. "All of them. We finished this today." "Sir, that's over 400 ships. Are you sure we need such overwhelming force against a single primitive world?" Vex turned to glare at his subordinate. "Look at that display, Captain. Does that look like a primitive world to you?" The tactical screen showed Earth surrounded by a defensive network that hadn't existed 6 months ago. Asteroid bases bristled with hybrid weapons. The moon had been turned into a fortress, Strange new ships patrolled in unpredictable patterns throughout the system. They've had half a year to prepare, Vex admitted grudgingly. But they're still using primitive base technology. Numbers and preparation can't overcome fundamental superiority. Admiral Park Hyun-jin watched the massive Corthani fleet approach from her command center hidden inside a converted asteroid. Around her, displays showed the positions of every human ship, defense platform, and mobile base in the solar system. "Ma'am," reported Commander Jang Ki-woo. "Enemy fleet strength is 412 ships. They're approaching in standard Corthani attack formation." Park smiled grimly. "Standard formation, of course they are. Have they learned nothing in 6 months?" The truth was the Corthani couldn't learn. Their military doctrine was carved in stone, passed down through centuries of easy victories. They had one way of fighting, and it had always worked before. The humans had spent 6 months studying every captured alien ship, every battle recording, every tactical manual they could find. They knew exactly how the Corthani would attack, because the aliens always attacked the same way. "Begin Phase 1, Park ordered. The Corthani fleet advanced in perfect formation, their shields overlapping to create maximum protection. It was a beautiful display of military precision that had conquered dozens of worlds. But when they reached the outer edge of Earth's defense zone, they flew into the most sophisticated trap in human history. The asteroids they had dismissed as natural debris suddenly lit up with weapon signatures. Hidden bases that had been powered down came online simultaneously. Ships that had been hiding in the shadow of planets emerged from concealment. "Sir," the Corthani tactical officer screamed, "we're detecting over 200 enemy contacts. They were hiding throughout the system." Vex stared in disbelief as human ships appeared from every direction. Some emerged from asteroid fields where they had been waiting for hours. Others had been hiding behind moons, using gravitational shadows to mask their presence. A few had even been disguised as space debris, their engines cold and their hulls covered with reflective material. "Impossible," he whispered. "Our sensors are the most advanced in the galaxy." But the humans hadn't beaten Corthani sensors through superior technology. They had beaten them through superior patience. While the aliens relied on active scanning and energy signatures, the humans had learned to hide by becoming part of the background. The battle began with a coordinated strike that hit the Corthani fleet from 12 different directions simultaneously. Human weapons, modified with captured alien technology, punched through shields that hadn't been updated in centuries. Corthani ships, designed for orbital bombardment, found themselves outmaneuvered by smaller, faster human vessels. Colonel Bay, Sung-ho led the boarding parties that targeted the alien command ships. His teams used the same tactics that had worked for months: industrial tools, improvised weapons, and absolute determination. "Remember," he told his assault teams, "they're not used to fighting equals. They've spent centuries bombing helpless planets. Show them what a real fight looks like." The boarding actions were brutal but quick. Corthani Marines, trained for ceremonial duties and crowd control on conquered worlds, couldn't match humans who had spent months preparing for exactly this moment, Admiral. Vex watched in horror as his flagship's bridge doors exploded inward. Human soldiers in patched armor poured through the breach, their weapons cobbled together from alien technology and Earth materials. "Surrender your ship," demanded Colonel Bay, pointing a modified plasma rifle at Vex's head. "Your war is over." "We are the superior species," Vex shouted desperately. "We have conquered 47 worlds." Bay looked around at the burning bridge, at the defeated alien crew, at the tactical displays showing the destruction of the Corthani fleet. "Superior, you bombed our cities and expected us to quit. Instead, you just reminded us what we're fighting for." Through the shattered viewports, Vex could see the wreckage of his mighty fleet. 400 ships reduced to debris and prisoners in less than 6 hours. The primitive humans had not only defeated them, they had made it look easy. "How?" he whispered. "Simple," Bay replied. "You fight the same way every time. We adapt." "Admiral," Vex sat in his small prison cell, staring through the reinforced viewport at something that should have been impossible. Outside, Human ships worked alongside vessels from a dozen different species, all flying under the banner of something called the Galactic Federation. The Corthani Empire was gone, not destroyed in a fit of revenge, but simply dissolved. We, after world had declared independence, supported by human technology and training, the species that had once cowered before Corthani might were now free, and they had no intention of going back to the old ways. It doesn't make sense, Vex muttered, to himself. We gave them order. We gave them civilization. They should be grateful. The cell door opened and Admiral Park Hyun-jin entered. She looked tired but satisfied, wearing the simple blue uniform of the new Federation fleet. In the months since the final battle, she had become something unprecedented in galactic history, a military leader who commanded through cooperation rather than fear. You wanted to see me, Park said, settling into the chair across from his bunk. My staff said you had questions. Vex looked at her with genuine confusion. Why didn't you destroy us? You had the power. We would have in your position. Park nodded slowly. That's exactly why we won and you lost. You think power means the ability to destroy things. We think power means the ability to build things. Through the viewport, they watched a massive construction project taking shape, a space station that would serve as the Federation's first joint research facility. Former Corthani engineers worked alongside humans and liberated species, sharing knowledge that had been hoarded for centuries. Your empire collapsed because it was built on fear, Park continued. Fear only works as long as you're the strongest. But someone is always getting stronger. Vex shook his head. We brought order to chaos. We ended the wars between primitive species. You ended their wars by conquering everyone, Park corrected. That's not peace, that's just successful bullying. Real peace comes from people choosing to work together. She gestured toward the construction site. Look at that station. Corthani gravitational technology, human manufacturing techniques, Zalarian crystalline processors, and move-in power systems. None of us could have built it alone, but together we're creating something amazing. The irony wasn't lost on Vex. The very diversity that the Corthani had tried to suppress was now producing innovations that surpassed anything his empire had achieved in centuries. What happens to my people now? He asked quietly. The same thing. That happens to everyone else. You get to choose what kind of species you want to be. Park stood and walked to the viewport. Some of your people have already joined the Federation. They're sharing Corthani technology and learning from other species. Others are returning to your homeworld to rebuild your society without the Empire. And the rest? The ones who still believe in conquest and domination? Park shrugged. They're welcome to try. But they'll find that the galaxy has changed. The species you once conquered now know how to fight back. More importantly, they know how to work together. It was true. The humans had done something that had never happened before in galactic history. They had created a military alliance based on mutual aid rather than domination. When one member was threatened, others came to help. When one species developed new technology, they shared it freely. The Corthani way of war had become obsolete overnight. Dr. Lee Jae-sung arrived at the prison station the next day, carrying a datapad full of technical specifications. He had volunteered to interview Corthani engineers and scientists, learning about their technology while teaching them human innovation techniques. The remarkable thing, he explained to Park during their meeting, is how much they actually know. Their engineering knowledge is incredible, but they've been using it the same way for so long that they forgot it could be improved. Any luck changing their minds? Lee smiled. More than you might expect. When you show someone that their work could help build something better instead of just conquering things, many of them get excited about the possibilities. The transformation was visible throughout the galaxy. Worlds that had been strip-mined for resources under Corthani rule began to flourish as independent colonies. Species that had been forced into slavery developed their own technologies and cultures. Trade routes that had once served only the Empire now connected dozens of free worlds. Most importantly, the constant fear that had defined galactic civilization for centuries was gone. Species no longer had to worry about conquest from above. They could focus on growth, exploration, and cooperation. Park returned to Vex's cell one final time before his transfer to the rehabilitation facility on New Corthania. "I have one last question for you," she said. "Do you understand now why we won?" Vex was quiet for a long moment, watching the ships outside his window. Human vessels, Corthani ships, and dozens of other designs working together in perfect coordination. "You didn't just beat our military," he said finally. "You beat our entire way of thinking." Park nodded. "We never tried to become like you. We stayed who we were. Messy, chaotic, argumentative humans who somehow managed to work together when it really matters. And we showed everyone else that they didn't have to be afraid anymore. What if some species choose to be like the old Corthani? What if they try to build new empires?" Park smiled as she headed for the door. "Then they'll learn the same lesson you did. The galaxy belongs to everyone now, and everyone is watching out for everyone else. Bullies don't last long when their victims know how to call for help." The door closed, leaving Vex alone with a view of the new galaxy, chaotic, diverse, and free.